Good morning, guys. I wanted to do a little bit of catch up with the Lively and Wayfarer stuff. I'm still working my way through all the exhibits that were attached to Blake Lively's opposition and Stephanie Jones's. There is just so much. I'm going to go through some of the deposition transcripts today. This is Jamie Heath's. Now they have exhibited 110 pages. So I'm not going to read all of this. It's just a lot. So I'm just picking out like a few points. And we're kind of starting, here on page 88. Because the first like several pages of this is, how do you spell Jamie? Which depositions did you sit in and see, etc. So, this one though, this is basically they're talking about recording the calls. So if I just kind of start here with question. I believe you said that you listened to part of the Stephanie Jones call. Did you do that after Miss Lively filed her CRD complaint in California in December of 2024? Jamie, I believe so. Question. And did you send the call to your lawyers before either this Jones call or any of the 4 calls to your lawyers before you sued Miss Lively? Shapiro objects. Jamie, I don't recall the time. Okay, so it's Ezra Hudson who's questioning. Question, did you announce to any of the participants in the call with Patrick Whitesell that they were being recorded? Jamie, I did not. Question, why did you record that call? Jamie, I was incredibly worried of what I was, and it cuts off, and it's so frustrating. Okay. Question, and you said Jen Abel and Dan Greenberg reside in Los Angeles. Do you have any reason to think they were anywhere other than Los Angeles for that call? Objection. Jamie, no. Question, with respect to all of the calls other than the one with Stephanie Jones, what device did you use to record those? Objection. Jamie, I was on the phone, so I may have used my computer or iPad, whatever, something of that nature that was there. I don't recall which. Question. So you believe you used some device other than your phone? Jamie, yeah, I was on my phone and I used, I believe, my computer maybe, but I don't know. I don't recall. Question. Okay, and did you tell any of the participants in that call that you were recording them? Jamie, I did not. Question. And Danny Greenberg was Wayfarer's agent at the time? Jamie, he's actually Justin's direct agent or was his agent. Question. So, Jamie, he adjacently would help with Wayfarer and have calls, but he wasn't officially Wayfarer's agent. Question. So Danny Greenberg was Mr. Baldoni's agent and Jen Abel was Wayfarer's publicist, correct? Objection. Jamie, correct. And she was also Justin's publicist, was acting as publicist on behalf of. Question. And why did you record a call with them? Jamie, Danny was calling to read us a letter that we were told was written by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively, and they were going to articulate the call to me. So I recorded it so I could have the letter documented. Okay. Okay, so we're now going to move on to page 126, and we're going to start at this question. Do you recognize this email, Jamie? I don't recall the specific email, but I remember the subject. Question. But you received this email and participated in this email chain? Jamie, I did. Question. And it said that there was a call from someone at Local 52 that needs the HR department information immediately regarding a complaint, correct? Jamie, correct. Question. And then you respond, in response to a question, who handles HR at Wayfarer? You respond, correct? Jamie, I see that. Question. And your response is, as read, we do have HR at Wayfarer, however, we may want to have an outside agency for the show. Why did you say that? Jamie, I don't have a recollection of why I said this at that time. Question. Looking at this now, do you have any understanding of why you might want to have an outside agency for that show? Objection. Jamie, I would only be guessing. Question. And what if you were guessing, what would you say? Objection. Jamie, that I would only be guessing. Question. So you don't know why Miss Sachs suggested having an outside entity provide HR services, and you don't know why you suggested that either. Is that right? Objection. Jamie, at this time, there was a constant flow of suggestions as we were still building the foundation for many things. So I don't know. I don't know what my exact thought was at this time other than responding to the email. Question. And you didn't think that like Ms. Sachs thought that the fact that Justin was having so many roles in leadership might create a problem for dealing with HR issues? Objection. Jamie, no, I did not think that. Question. You didn't think that? And you have no idea why you might have suggested an outside agency, is that right? Objection. Jamie, this is over 2 years ago. I do not recall my feeling at the time. Question. And you never did have any outside HR agency provide support for It Ends With Us, correct? Jamie, we did not have an HR representative specifically for the movie, as what was determined was specifically indies, and most other shows don't have an HR outside of the production company that provides it. Question. Just to make sure I understand what you're saying here, you're referring to the bottom of this email where Andrea Ajemian says, as read, normally on indies there are no HR departments, so who should I send? Shapiro objects. Jamie, I see that she says that here, but I'm also saying that any movie that I've been involved in and any one that I know that any other producers that have told me they've been involved in or our studio, there is not a HR presence. Question. There's no HR presence on movies? Jamie, outside of the production company? Question. So when you say outside the production company, you mean outside of Wayfarer? Objection. Jamie, outside of whatever production company or the studio that is running the movie. Question. So the studio that was running the movie here is Wayfarer, correct? Jamie, correct. Question. Okay. And you are saying that it's your view that Wayfarer HR was responsible for this production? Objection. Jamie, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that Wayfarer has HR, and movies don't typically have a HR person on set. Okay. Question. So what is your understanding of who was responsible for human resources for the movie It Ends With Us? Jamie, my understanding is I deferred to Alex Sachs ultimately and Jill Sacco, who was our production supervisor, as well as Andrea, who was our line producer, that if there was concerns, would go to them if there were any brought up. They would then learn what the next step was, should it need to go to another step. And in this case, they had asked for Wayfarer's HR, or they wanted to know who, and we just followed their suggestion, what their suggestions were at the time. So you deferred the notion of human resources issues to Alex Sachs, Jill Sacco, and Andrea Adjemian. Jamie, for the movie itself? They were ones that were more experienced with how policies or what the procedure would be. Excuse me, not policies, but the procedure would be for anything as it pertains to the movie. Question, and were Alex Sachs, Jill Sacco, or Andrea Adjemian employees of Wayfarer Studios? Jamie, they were employees of It Ends With Us. Question, they were not Wayfarer employees, right? Jamie, they were not. Question, but you were. Jamie, yes. Question, and was there any other information given to anyone who worked on It Ends With Us that if they had a human resources concern, they should go to Alex Sachs, Jill Sacco, or Andrea Adjemian? Objection. Jamie, from my understanding, the normal protocol that happens at all movies happened on It Ends With Us. And then Ezra Hudson moves to strike as non-responsive. Jamie, okay. Question, can you answer the question I asked? Jamie, I'm happy to. I thought I did. Question, you did not. Shapiro objects. Heath, okay, give it to me again. Question, my question was, I'm going to read it exactly how I read it. Was there any information given to anyone who worked on It Ends With Us that if they had a human resources concern, they should go to Alex Sachs, Jill Sacco, or Andrea Adjemian? Objection. Jamie, I don't know if there was a specific email that said that. Question, or not any information? Objection. Question, verbal, email, text message? Jamie, I don't know. Question, you've never seen anything like that, correct? Objection, Jamie, I don't recall. Ezra, you don't recall ever seeing something like that, correct? Shapiro, objection. Jamie, I don't have a memory of it. Question, as the CEO of Wayfarer, did you do anything to ensure that cast and crew on It Ends With Us knew who to raise concerns to if they had any? Jamie, that would not fall under the job description of the CEO. Question, I thought you said it was the CEO's job to make sure that it was a safe workplace. Jamie, correct, for Wayfarer. Question, you didn't consider your job to make sure that the set was a safe workplace. Jamie, no, that's not what I said. Wayfarer Studios in our operations, but It Ends With Us as its own small business, and the people that were running that business, essentially me included for sure, were responsible for how the procedures went about on there. I defer to who were used to running those small businesses on the ground. Question, who ran It Ends With Us Movie LLC? Jamie, that would have been a combination of Wayfarer and Sony. Question, Wayfarer and Sony? Jamie, I believe so. Question, Sony had a leadership role in It Ends With Us LLC? Jamie, your answer was who ran it. I believe the LLC was run, and I could be wrong on this, so I can confirm this, but it was both parties in that. Question, well, you're the CEO of Wayfarer. Jamie, correct. Question, do you understand that It Ends With Us LLC is a wholly owned subsidiary of Wayfarer? Jamie, it may be. I don't have specific memory. All right, so we're going to jump ahead to page 148. So they're asking about Claire Ayub. And it starts partway through an answer from Jamie. So after there were chatter online about it as well, and she was concerned that the chatter might have an impact on her movie, and she didn't want to associate with it. Question: did she also ask that Mr. Baldoni not come to the set of Empire Waste? Jamie: never once. Question: so that is not true. That's just a lie that Miss Ayub was telling us? Jamie: that is something the first time we ever heard expressed. I don't know the date, but years later. Question: when you say years later? Objection. Jamie: within the last 6 months, year something. She said something to Ashmi in the marketing. No, this would have been in September of 24. She said something that she didn't want Justin to post something, I believe it was. Okay. Question: are you representing the text message that Mr. Baldoni testified about yesterday? Jamie: I don't know what text message that was. So she conveyed to Ashmi that she didn't want him to promote the movie based on what was going on. And in that, she also expressed, which I heard for the first time, or anyone had heard for the first time, where she said something he was banned from set. But I'm sure if you do more investigation, you will see that there is nothing that leads for you to believe that. I'm helping you with that one. Question: okay, there was also some testimony by Mr. Baldoni about, and also Mr. Sauerwitz about Shane Norman. Okay, so we're going to dig up the Shane Norman complaint. Do you recall that? Jamie: I do. Mr. Baldoni, question: Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Sauerwitz claimed that Mr. Norman, there were multiple complaints from multiple women about his behaviour towards them. Do you recall that? Jamie: I do. Question: and there was an investigation conducted, is that right? Jamie: there was. So Shane Norman is a guy who initially he sued Wayfarer Justin Baldoni for racial discrimination. The person he claimed actually made the statement was Steve Sauerwitz. He claimed that Sauerwitz said, "We need more people who look like you," referring to his skin color. Now, obviously, they have Jamie Heath. I'm not saying one more is enough. I'm just saying, Shane Norman was not the only black person working at Wayfarer. However, he never did sue Steve Sauerwitz as an individual. That case was dismissed. And Steve Sauerwitz has asked on Reddit not to be dragged into all of this. Not Steve Sauerwitz, sorry. Shane Norman has on Reddit come in and said, "Can you stop trying to bring me into this lawsuit?" I believe Shane Norman actually is still friends with Justin Baldoni and even represents him. Yeah, he does actually. I know I'm right on this because I've actually raised this. When I've covered both Travis Flores and Shane Norman, the lawsuits that Wayfarer have been involved in, I did actually look into this. So this is Shane Norman's website. He represents a bunch of people, including Justin Baldoni. So there you go. And this post dates that lawsuit. Just for some context there. Okay. All right. So here they're saying that there are actually complaints about Shane Norman from when he was working at Wayfarer from multiple women about his behaviour towards them, and that an investigation was conducted. Okay. So then they're talking about the casting for It Ends With Us. This is page 156. Okay, question. Now, at some point, you all began casting for It Ends With Us, correct? Jamie, yes. Question. And a key theme for the movie It Ends With Us is female empowerment, right? Shapiro objects. Jamie, yes. Question. And did you think that you would need a strong actress to play the role of Lily Bloom? Objection. Jamie, yes. Question. And were Sony and Wayfarer hoping to land an A-list actress? Shapiro objects. Jamie says, I think it's more nuanced than that. But eventually we came to the understanding that that's what we were thinking. But they couldn't get an A-list actress, so they settled for Blake Lively. Okay. I believe that talking about someone being high maintenance at that time. So I'll leave your imagination wander as to who that could possibly be. Okay. So page 160, part way through a question, blah, 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 being high maintenance at that time. Shapiro objects. Jamie, no, because the truth is many people are high maintenance. I mean, there's high maintenance and there's just, diva. Many people say things about other people, and so it wasn't a cause for concern. But being that you asked me, had I heard anything else, that's what I had heard. That was the extent of it at that time. And then they show some text messages between Jamie and Justin Baldoni. Asked, do you recognize this? Blah, blah, blah. So she's got to make sure he recognizes the document before she, and lays the foundation before she starts questioning. Okay. Question. I'm going to direct you to, specific areas for questions. I'm just asking. Jamie, I understand. I can give you an advance. I'm not able to comment on something unless I understand full context. So I have to read from it. Just for everything that you give me, I'm going to certainly read it. Question. Are you telling me that every document that I give you, you need to read the entire thing before I can ask you any questions about it? Jamie, no. Objection. No, but if you're giving me something of this nature, my intention is that I need to understand the context, that's all. Question. I don't right now. I'm only asking you if you recognize it as a text chain between you and Mr. Baldoni. Jamie, it appears to be yes. Okay, so Jamie, can I read it? Question. You can take a moment to read it, but I don't think you need to read the whole thing for the questions I'm going to ask. Jamie, okay, how about we do this? It jumps a page. And I don't know if it's the same document, but this Jamie's still being asked, you want to read the whole document? Okay. You want to read the whole document before you hear my question? Jamie, yes. Because now you're reading things to me. I can read for myself at this point, if that's okay. Ezra Hudson, go ahead. Jamie, thank you. Okay, thank you. Ezra, you done? Jamie, I am. Ezra, so I'm going back to what I just read to you, which was, if we get Blake on this movie, holy shit, you would be directing and starring in a movie with one of the biggest female stars. I mean, I think that's a stretch. Is that an accurate reflection of how you felt at the time you sent this message? Jamie, absolutely. All right. And then if you go down to the next thing you write here, you say, my son's girlfriend was over last night and she heard me talking about Blake and she said, oh my God, I love her so much. She's a black 20-year-old. Was this an accurate statement when you wrote it? Jamie, it was. Ezra, okay. And then Mr. Baldoni responded, everyone loves her. It's pretty wild. Did you see that? Objection. Yeah, I would object at this point. Ezra, well, he says it's pretty wind. Yeah. And then he corrects it and says wild. No, wind is right. Ezra, so, and you understood that it was his view at the time that everyone loves Blake, right? So we're just reading text messages from Jamie Heath's son's girlfriend because she liked Blake Lively, that Blake Lively was just to be adored. I mean, Jesus. I still don't see the relevancy of this. But I do understand why they got to do it. It's difficult when there's chunks missing because, we jump around. So now we're at page 179. They're talking about the video footage of Natasha Heath giving birth. Okay. Ezra, your lawyers produced a video in this case. Did you provide a video in which your wife is in a tub with a baby to your lawyers to produce to us in this case? Jamie, I did. Ezra, okay. Where was that video stored? Jamie, you mean at what point? Ezra, at the point you took it to give it to your lawyers. Where did you get it? Where was it? Jamie, I believe it was on my phone. Ezra, it was on your phone. Jamie, I believe so. Ezra, okay. Did you edit the video at all before giving it to your lawyers? Jamie, I did not. Ezra, so the video you gave was a complete video as it existed on your phone? Jamie, correct. Ezra, what in your memory did the video depict? Jamie, it's our midwife, my sister, my kids, my wife, myself, our newborn baby. I believe we were singing or praying. The baby was crying, and then at some point we were whispering a prayer in the baby's ear. Ezra, that's what you recall? Jamie, yeah. Ezra, and your wife was in a tub. Jamie, a birthing tub. Yeah. Ezra, a birthing tub. And you said she wasn't clothed, but she had a towel over her. Shapiro objects. Jamie, the towel was more over the baby, I think, because, when the baby come out of the water and you bring it up, then it's wet. And so you put a dry towel to cover it. Ezra, and in the video that you gave to your lawyers to give to us, were you in the video? Jamie, I am. Ezra, and are you nude in that video? Jamie, no. Ezra, did your wife give birth in a tub? Jamie, she did. Ezra, were you in the tub when she gave birth? I was. Ezra, the entire time? Jamie, I believe so. Ezra, you were there the whole time she was giving birth. And the relevance of this to Blake Lively is what? Jamie, I was. Ezra, who filmed the video? Jamie, that particular one, I believe, was my daughter. Ezra, your daughter? Jamie, my older daughter. Ezra, your older daughter? Oh, God. Did you give your daughter instructions for filming? Jamie, I'm not sure. What do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean? Ezra, did you ask her to film any particular part of the birth? Jamie, no, she was just, her and my sister both actually were filming different stages of the labour and the birth and afterwards. Ezra, so did someone else film a different stage other than the stage that is depicted in the video that you gave to your lawyers to produce to us? Ugh, they're like sharks. I don't blame them, but they're like sharks. Oh, so there's more? Shapiro objects. Jamie, I think I'm a little confused. But I think your question is: is there other video of the duration of my child being born and after and beforehand? Ezra: sure. Jamie: yes. Ezra: what other stages of the delivery are depicted in her video? Jamie: her entire birth. Ezra: how long was the birth? Jamie: oh gosh, I don't remember. The whole birth in a couple of hours. Ezra: and it's all on film. Jamie: no, I just mean the birth took a couple of hours at different times. But if you're wondering if the birth is filmed, it is. Ezra: the delivery itself? Jamie: it is. Ezra: so the baby crowning and coming out is all filmed. This is starting to feel so fucking uncomfortable to read. Jamie: yes, the baby being delivered. Yes, for sure. Ezra: were you in the tub with your wife when the baby was actually delivered? Jamie: yes, I was. Oh my God. Okay, so we get to how it came about that Justin asked Jamie to show this video of the home birth. Okay, page 191. We're partway through the answer, so I'm just going to read from the next paragraph. So, Justin, I believe it was at the bar we filmed the route at. I was sitting over on a chair doing some work on my phone. Justin comes over and he says, hey, I was talking to Blake. I was talking about your beautiful video with your wife. So Blake had knowledge of the existence of this video. She wasn't taken quite by surprise. Would you mind showing it to her? I said, yeah, sure. I didn't think twice about it. I went over, walked over to her, and then the rest, as I explained already, happened. So Justin Baldoni was already talking about this birth video immediately before Jamie Heath went and showed it to her. Ezra, you didn't say anything to Miss Lively before you showed her the video because it was your understanding that Mr. Bell, that she had specifically asked for it. Shapiro objects. Jamie, my understanding at the time was that they had just had a conversation, or just at some point had a conversation, and that she was... Ezra, so you didn't say anything prefatory? Like, this is the video that Justin said you wanted to look at? Jamie, I did say something when I walked up. I was like, hey Blake, Justin mentioned you wanted to see this, and then I immediately showed her the screen. Yeah, of course. It makes complete sense that someone would actually give some kind of context for why they were showing something on their phone. And not just walk up and go, look at this. Ezra, you mean, and was it playing at the time? Jamie, I don't recall if it was playing or paused. Ezra, do you know what scene was specifically showing what was visible to Miss Lively when you hit play? Jamie, well, the first portion of the video, which again, she had only seen maybe half a second of it, is only my wife sitting here, the baby on top, and that's what she would have seen. Ezra, so your testimony is that you showed her the very beginning of the video. Jamie, yeah, for sure. Shapiro objects. Hudson, okay. Jamie, either it was paused or playing. I don't recall that, but for sure. Ezra, do you remember what date this was? Jamie, I've come to believe and know that and then it cuts off. It's a bit of an argument now. Page 256. I keep swearing that I'm gonna skip over, but there's always something amusing. So page 256, it looks like the lawyers are having a bit of a set too. Miss Shapiro, so that's Alexandra Shapiro who's representing Jamie Heath. I'm just pointing that out. Ezra Hudson. We're taking an excessive amount of time to read documents respectfully. So, Shapiro, this is a 2-page document. And then Heath interjects, you've given me 4. I'm trying to do my best. Hudson, I understand, but I just want to ask you questions. So if you don't mind, if I could just bring you to the questions I want to ask you, and then if you need to look, that's fine. That was a suggestion you made. Let's try and do that. How about it? Okay. Jamie, accepted. Hudson, okay. Thank you. If you would look at the second page, 35493, at the top of the page it says, from Mr. Baldoni. As read, I told Steve more today. Did you see that? Jamie, I see it. Ezra, and then you respond, I talked to Steve last night also. I didn't share the comments the ladies had feelings about. Didn't want to share anything you hadn't yet. Do you see that? Jamie, I do. Ezra, then Mr. Baldoni responds, I shared with him today. Do you see that? Jamie, I do. Ezra, my question for you is, the comments the ladies had feelings about, what does that refer to? Jamie, okay, so respectfully, you asked me about this, and there's context beforehand, so I would like to read it. Ezra, all right, go ahead. Jamie, okay, thank you. Ezra, which ladies' comments were you referring to there? Jamie, I really don't recall exactly what was happening at this moment, but I don't. Do you know who the ladies were that you were referring to there? And then there's a bit of back and forth, doesn't recall sending it, etc., etc. Ezra, well, you read the whole thing you read the whole thing for context, right? Jamie, I did. Ezra, maybe Mr. Baldoni's response will help provide you some additional context. He said, I shared with him today. He said he should come to sit and remind Blake whose money this is. And I said, that's not the best idea. So Steve Saueritz was going to come and remind Blake Lively that it's his money. Ezra, does this refresh your recollection that one of the ladies was Miss Lively? Jamie, it might have been. Ezra, it may have been. And any other lady might have been Miss Slate, right? Jamie, it might have been, but I just don't know for sure. Ezra, it may have been the comments that you are referring to were the ones that Miss Slate and Miss Lively had raised to Miss Giannetti, right? Jamie, I don't recall sending it. I don't recall this conversation, so I really don't. I just don't want to be wrong about something, so. Ezra, did you ever talk to Mr. Baldoni about what it is he shared with Steve? Jamie, I did not. Ezra, did you understand Steve to be Steve Saueritz? Jamie, I did. Ezra, do you know what you talked to Steve Saueritz about? Jamie, did I know what? Ezra, what you talked to Steve Saueritz about the night before? Jamie, I don't recall what we talked about, but I know this was during COVID and a shutdown, so maybe it was an update. Okay. Let's see if we can. Okay, so we're moving on to Justin Baldoni's deposition. So I'm going to start on page 53. Again, this is also like 104 pages. These are not, like 4 pages, 20 pages that, Wayfarer included in their kind of motions. Blake Lively is literally stuffing 100 pages worth of deposition transcript. So I'm just going to have to pick certain bits, so I'm not going to go through all of this. We're starting on page 53. Now, they're talking about the Wayfarer policies. So we'll just do a little bit of this. Question. So this is Michael Gottlieb. So Gottlieb. So if I showed you some slides, you might be able to tell me if they were the ones you saw. Baldoni, to be very honest, if you showed me slides, I would not know if they were the exact ones I saw. It was years ago. That's a fair point. Gottlieb, I think I might be able to tell. I think I said might be able to tell me, but okay, fair enough. Do you see at the top of page 5, in the second paragraph, second sentence, the sentence reads, Wayfarer Studios strictly prohibits discrimination, harassment, or retaliation against employees, applicants, or any other covered person. Justin, I see that. Gottlieb, and that's the Wayfarer Studios policy. Justin, yes. Gottlieb, do you agree with it? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, you've done your best to follow it. Justin, I have done my best to follow it, yes. Gottlieb, do you see a long list of characteristics that are under the Wayfarer Studios policy are protected? Shapiro objects. Justin, may I read it? Gottlieb, sure thing. Justin, I've read this paragraph. Gottlieb, okay. You've read the paragraph that lists out the protected characteristics, correct? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, do you see that gender is protected? Justin, I do. You see that sex is protected? Justin, yes. And you see that further includes pregnancy, breastfeeding, and childbirth. Oh, God. Gottlieb, Justin, I do. Gottlieb, do you see that height and weight are also protected characteristics? Oh, for God's sake. I mean, asking someone's weight for health and safety reasons is not harassment or discrimination. That would be like if you was to say, okay, well, height is a protected characteristic, right? That would be the equivalent of saying to Disney, you cannot put up a sign or a board with a cartoon character and say, anyone below this height, with the line pointing to the top of the hat or something, anyone below this height cannot ride on this ride. There are also weight restrictions on some of the rides as well in theme parks. You know, it's the context, and context matters. And, you know, Justin Baldoni, for the same thing, for health and safety, was saying, I've got to lift this person, but I have a pre-existing back problem, a serious one as well, not just a bit of back pain, serious one that had required surgery and stem cell therapy. So to ask how much she weighed, and it was a ballpark figure as well, like, so he could rehearse and practice with his trainer, is not unreasonable. And shit like this annoys me. Right, I will do it again. Sorry. On my soapbox already. Do you see that height and weight are also protected characteristics? Justin, height and weight, and yes. Gottlieb, and do you see the next line down? The sentence that says, all Wayfarer Studios employees, officers, principals, agents, workers, and representatives are prohibited from engaging in unlawful discrimination, harassment, and or retaliation. Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and were you an officer of Wayfarer Studios? Is that correct? Justin, as co-chairman, I believe I am. Gottlieb, and you were also an agent or an employee because you were hired to be the director of It Ends With Us. Shapiro objects. Justin says yes. Gottlieb, and you certainly represented Wayfarer Studios in your role as co-chairman, right? Justin, I believe I am. Okay. Gottlieb, and in fact, you and Mr. Saritz are the highest people in this hierarchy of Wayfarer, is that right? Shapiro objects. Justin, yeah. Gottlieb, ultimately the CEO and upper management answer to you and Mr. Saritz, is that right? Justin, ultimately, yes. Gottlieb, in other words, if you and Mr. Cyrus decide that, you had it with Mr. Heath, it's your decision whether to get rid of him, right? Justin, yes. Do you want to tell him or shall I? Gottlieb, I think you should. It would go over smoother. So do you see that one paragraph down from the sentence I just read, the anti-harassment policy? Justin, I see that. Gottlieb, and do you see where it says? Justin says, I have not read this, so can I read it? Gottlieb, why don't you read it? I'm going to ask you questions about the next 3 paragraphs. So if you want to read the next 3 paragraphs, then I will ask you questions about them. Right, Justin, I think I've gotten through them now. Okay, great. Okay, so they're now talking about the anti-harassment policy, which reads, Wayfarer Studios prohibits harassment, disrespectful or unprofessional conduct by any employee of the company, including supervisors, managers, and co-workers. Do you see that? Yes. Do you understand what it means? He says, we prohibit harassment by anybody at the company. And they're kind of just defining here, harassment can be verbal, written, or physical conduct. Okay. And then they move on to sexual harassment. Okay, and do you see in the next paragraph the sentence that reads, sexual harassment includes harassment that is not necessarily sexual in nature? Do you see that? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, you've been trained on that concept. Justin, I believe I have. Gottlieb, and you see further down there is another ABC here because, of course, we lawyers love to put ABCs into our documents. You see subsection C says, such conduct has the purpose or effect of substantially and unreasonably interfering with an individual's work performance by creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive working environment. Do you see that? Justin says, I do. You've been trained on it. So they just got talking. Same thing they were going through with Jamie Heath, basically. Like, here's your policy. Do you understand your own policy? So he's saying as well, sexual harassment can also take a range of behaviors, including sexual jokes or innuendo, commentary about an individual's body, sexual prowess, or sexual deficiencies, or touching. Okay, so we've established then that Blake Lively definitely sexually harassed Justin Baldoni based on behind-the-scenes footage. We are still yet to see the evidence of Blake Lively being sexually harassed. Okay, so I'm going to see what else there is in this one. Okay, so we're not much further, but Gottlieb's asking, was any investigation of the type described here in this paragraph conducted for the conduct that is at issue in this litigation? Excuse me. Superior objects. Justin, not until this lawsuit was filed and we were made aware of the conduct. Gottlieb, so I think your testimony is this lawsuit was filed. You were made aware of the conduct. Justin, we were made of allegations of misconduct. Gottlieb, okay, and then you launched an investigation. And then we kind of jump ahead to page 66. We skip a few pages, but halfway through a question, blah, 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 unaware of the incidents that were described in the complaint? Or is it your testimony that you were unaware that Miss Lively thought that those incidents constituted sexual harassment and retaliation? Shapiro objects. Justin, my testimony is that this lawsuit and the New York Times article and the CRD complaint was the first that I had heard of many of these allegations that evidently I was at or a part of, which I completely disagree with whether or not they happened. That said, the reason we launched an investigation, so this is the third-party law firm investigation that Blake Lively tried to compel production of all of its documents, etc., and was denied. That said, the reason we launched an investigation was because this was the first official lawsuit against it. So that investigation happened because it was past a HR complaint situation. It was now an official, very public situation. Gottlieb, is it your understanding of the Wayfarer policy that in order to investigate allegations of sexual harassment and retaliation, that an official HR complaint needs to be filed by the complainant? Justin, I'm not sure. Gottlieb, in fact, didn't we just look at on page 6 of the policy, in the section entitled Supervisor and Manager Responsibilities, there's a line that says, if any supervisor or manager becomes aware of a violation of this policy, they are obligated to report the violation to Human Resources Management so Wayfarer Studios can investigate and, if appropriate, take corrective action. Shapiro objects. Justin, I see that, yes. Gottlieb, so it's actually under your Wayfarer Studios policy that it's not incumbent upon the person who feels that they have been harassed to come forward with a formal HR complaint, is that right? Shapiro objects. Justin, I don't know if there is another part of this that says there needs to be a formal HR complaint or not, so I don't know. Gottlieb, okay, you don't see one as you're sitting here looking at this page, do you? Under the box that says Supervisor and Manager Responsibilities. Shapiro objects. Justin, no, I don't see one. Gottlieb, okay, you testified yesterday, I believe, that you've never read the New York Times article. Is that correct? Justin, never personally read it, no. Justin, Gottlieb, you never sat down to read the article published by the New York Times, written by Megan Toohey about the incidents in this case. Justin, I did not personally sit down to read it. Gottlieb, so as you sit here today, what you do not know personally anything that article says? Shapiro objects. Justin, no, I would not say that's true. Gottlieb, you have no personal knowledge from your own experience of what the article says, is that right? Justin, I have personal first-hand knowledge from my attorneys giving me point by point all that was in the article. Okay. Okay, so now we're getting on to Shane Norman, and we bring up Liz Plank. So Gottlieb, did you support Mr. Saueritz's decision about the employment action to take with respect to Mr. Norman? Justin, I did. Gottlieb, and you know that employment action meant that he remained on with Man Enough in a consulting or part-time position for a number of months? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and he continued to be paid? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and you supported that? Justin, I did. Gottlieb, who is Liz Plank? Justin, Liz Plank is my former co-host of the Man Enough podcast. Gottlieb, how long was she your co-host? Justin, maybe 3 years. Gottlieb, what changed? Justin, what changed? Yeah, Gottlieb, what changed that caused her to not be your co-host anymore? Justin, I imagine the New York Times article and the entire world thinking I was a bad man. Gottlieb, did she tell you that? Justin, no. Gottlieb, did you talk to her when she quit? Justin, no. Gottlieb, did you read anything that she wrote about why she didn't want to be co-host anymore? Justin, I believe it was shown to me, yes. Gottlieb, do you recall what it said? Justin, I can't recall exactly what it said, no. Gottlieb, was it not important to you to understand why Miss Plank wanted to discontinue a 3-year-long professional relationship at that point in time? Shapiro objects. Justin, can you ask the question in a different way? Gottlieb, I can try. You said she didn't talk to you. You said you didn't talk to her after she quit. Justin, no. Gottlieb, and you didn't reach out to her to talk. Okay. Okay, we're going to go on to, it jumps to page 119. So there's a question about discomfort around the culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us. Shapiro objects. Justin, I'm not sure how my assumption of Miss Baker's testimony would lead to perjury. Huh? Love to know what it said before that. Gottlieb, do you or do you not think that she was being truthful when she said that multiple people felt uncomfortable about a culture of hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? I mean, it's speculation. She's talking about other people's discomfort. Miss Shapiro, objection. Justin, I think that she was being truthful. That's not why I said I thought it was odd. Gottlieb, okay, did you ever hear from anyone on the set of It Ends With Us that daily hugging, was making them uncomfortable? Justin, there was a point in time that I heard that, yes. Gottlieb, and when was that? Justin, that was from Ange Giannetti and I believe Alex Sachs. Gottlieb, do you recall when that was? Justin, it was early on in production, maybe first week or two. Gottlieb, okay, so that's in May of 2023. Objection. Justin, I have a feeling you know the date better than me, so yes. Yes, because your whiny client told you. Gottlieb, and what did you do when Miss Sachs and Miss Giannetti told you that certain people felt uncomfortable with the hugging on the set of It Ends With Us? Shapiro objects. Justin, I stopped hugging. Gottlieb, did you perform an investigation? I mean, for fuck's sake, does that really need an investigation? Justin, because people didn't want to be there as much hugging? Gottlieb, that's my question. Justin, no. Gottlieb, did you inform anyone in HR? Justin, I did not. Gottlieb, even though hugging is one of the items that appears in your sexual harassment policy. Shapiro objects, quite rightly so. Justin, I was unaware of any official complaint of the hugging. In fact, quite the opposite. Gottlieb, again, and we did this before, you understand, because we had this exchange before, that an official complaint does not need to be filed in order for something to violate the Wayfarer Studios sexual harassment policy, right? See, that's this policy is, it's stupid, because if they're just a friendly set, right, and leaning in for a hug in itself, it's not, automatically sexual or, harassing. If someone isn't happy, they can say they're unhappy. It does not need an investigation. What a waste of time and resources. But also, I do think that people should have to say and make a complaint, because I don't think that, people who, to them, that kind of behavior is perfectly normal. It's just friendly. So, is shaking hands also going to become sexual harassment down the line? And if someone deigns to shake hands with someone else, you're like, oh, well, we're going to have an investigation. And by the way, they're not even required to say anything to trigger you to know that you need to investigate yourself for shaking their hand. Like, that's where this is heading. I think the policy is not well written. And if I'm looking at, a hug on a set, like a friendly hug, and no one's saying anything, to me, that's not meeting the whole threshold of sexual harassment. And also, when he was made aware that people didn't really like it, some people didn't like it, he stopped. Like, what more is needed? Shapiro, objection. Just incorrect. Gottlieb, and you understand that there are supervisor responsibilities that apply? Shapiro objects. Gottlieb, that do not depend upon the filing of an official HR complaint, right? Do you know, this is like just ridiculous. If someone's given a friendly hug, to male and female, by the way, because that's just their way of life. You have a choice and you can say, no, I don't like that, actually. Can you not hug me, right? And he stops. Like, what more of a fuss do you need to kick up about that? Right? That is a far, it's such a long way removed from sexual harassment, like in the severe form of it, where a woman is having her breasts fondled or her bum pinched, or something like that, or a man is being objectified by a woman. This is just ridiculous. Right, anyway, I'm gonna see what else. Okay. So there's a little bit, you as the director and co-studio head had the authority to hire, fire, remove, and discipline people on the set if you choose to do so. Shapiro objects. Justin, yes. Right, well, that's running a company for you. Gottlieb, and then you see a reference at 3:05 p.m. by Miss Sachs saying, do you remember when I called Andy Davis a few weeks in and was like, Andy, he's inviting the department heads to go to Russian baths for him. Do you see that? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, who is Andy Davis? Justin, I believe Andy Davis he might be the head of production at Sony Studios. Okay, so that's a text from Alex Sachs. We jump to page 144. Gottlieb is reading something in. Russell said when he rapped, he felt like he left a cult. I don't know who Russell is. Justin, I see that. Gottlieb, do you find that offensive? Shapiro objects. Justin, it wouldn't be the first time people around this case have said I was in a cult. Gottlieb, I think you testified earlier about meetings with Miss Lively that occurred in her apartment. Is that right? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, is that the first place that you met with Miss Lively? Justin, the first place. It was in the same building, yes. Gottlieb, in the same apartment building. Justin, in the building. Gottlieb, different room but same building. Oh, for goodness sake. Different room but same building. Justin, different apartment. Gottlieb, different apartment, same building. Justin, yes. Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. Justin, am I done with this? Yes, exactly, Justin. Gottlieb, sure. When was that meeting, the first meeting? Justin, sometime in December before Christmas. Sorry, I think it was December 22nd. Gottlieb, and when you first met Miss Lively, she had not yet agreed to play the role of Lily in the film, is that right? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and you had not yet decided whether you were sure if you wanted her to play the role of Lily in the film, right? Justin, correct. Gottlieb, you thought you did though, right? Shapiro objects. Justin, I thought I did what? Gottlieb, when you went to that meeting, travelled to the meeting. Justin, yes. You prepared for the meeting, yes. And you discussed the meeting in advance for certain people, yes. Like Mr. Heath, yes. and others. Justin's now up at this point just nodding his head. Gottlieb, is it fair to say that you were hopeful that you and Miss Lively could reach an understanding where she would agree to play the role of Lily in the film? Shapiro objects. Justin, yes? Gottlieb, and at that point in time you had made the decision that along with directing the film you would play the co-lead in the film. Justin, yes. Gottlieb, is that the role of Bryle? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and before I asked you if you were a producer and you said no, you're an executive producer, is that correct? Justin, yes. I was, but eventually I wasn't. You were for some period of time? Yes. Gottlieb, in the first meeting, along with other topics, you and Miss Lively discussed your families, is that right? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and at the time Miss Lively was pregnant. Justin, very pregnant, yes. Gottlieb, she was soon to give birth. Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and that would not be the first time Miss Lively had children already, right? Justin, yes, they were all over the apartment. Gottlieb, and Miss Lively was pregnant with a boy, is that right? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and the two of you discussed certain things about Miss Lively's baby. Shapiro objects. Justin, unborn baby, yes. Gottlieb, among other things, you discussed whether Miss Lively's baby would be circumcised, right? Shapiro objects. Justin, that was a conversation, yes. Gottlieb, and in the context of that conversation, did you at any point share with Miss Lively whether you were circumcised? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, did Miss Lively ask whether you were circumcised? Justin, directly? No. Gottlieb, who was present at the moment when you relayed to Miss Lively that you were circumcised? Justin, there were people going all around. Mr. Reynolds was in and out of the conversation. She had, I think, 2 nannies. This woman, by the way, for years denied using nannies. Here she has 2. I felt like there was a housekeeper there. Her assistant was walking around. I think she had 2 assistants there. Her and I were sitting on the couch, but there were people all around. Gottlieb, have you ever told any other work colleague at any point in time about your genitalia? Shapiro. Justin, Shapiro objects. Justin, I don't talk about my genitalia, so no. Gottlieb, prior to Miss Lively accepting the role of Lily Bloom, she received a copy of the script. Is that right? Justin, yes. Right, so we're 148. Okay, because I'm skipping past some of this because I read it actually. Right, okay, I think I'm going to do this bit and then I'll end the video there and I'll do a second one then for other deposition transcripts. Okay, so Gottlieb, did there come a time in May of 2023 where you learned that Jenny Slate and Miss Lively had made concerns known regarding comments that you had made on the set? Justin, in May of 2023? I believe yes. Yes. Gottlieb, who told you about Miss Slate and Miss Lively's concerns? Ange Giannetti, Alex Sachs. Gottlieb, separately or together? Justin, separate conversations. Gottlieb, with Miss Giannetti, was that a conversation in person? Justin, no. On the phone? Yes. How about Miss Sachs? Phone. Gottlieb, okay, what do you recall about Miss Sachs telling you about Miss Slate's concerns? Justin, I recall her having lunch with Miss Slate and saying that Miss Slate, she listed a few things. She said Miss Slate had not appreciated the recording that I had made during pre-production with her and Miss Lively. She had not appreciated a comment that I made on set regarding her wardrobe, something she was wearing. I believe she also said that Miss Slate didn't like that I was interacting with the fans outside. There was a lot of fans when we were shooting, and then on certain breaks I would go and just say hi to them because they were there all day. And if I recall correctly, she was saying to Miss Sachs that she didn't want to be asked to go out and do that as well because she was a private person. So she was asking to not interact with and to be asked to interact with the fans. I don't know if it was Alex or Ange who told me that she had felt the set was too huggy or comfortable or whatever. I know huggy was a word that was used because I remember the word. Yes. That's the best of my recollection at the moment. Gottlieb, so between Miss Sachs and Miss Giannetti, you were told that Miss Slate thought the set was too huggy, yes? Justin, you asked me about just Miss Sachs, so I was answering for Miss Sachs. Gottlieb, I thought you just said that you weren't sure if it was Miss Sachs or Miss Giannetti that said that. Justin, oh no, I thought your original question was to recount what Miss Sachs told me. If I misheard that, I thought you were breaking the two up. Gottlieb, did Miss Giannetti's description of Miss Slate's concerns differ in any material respect to you? Shapiro, objection. Slightly. Gottlieb, in what way? I specifically recall, to further answer your question, it was a FaceTime. Gottlieb, with? Justin, Miss Giannetti. Okay. Justin, it was not a phone call. Gottlieb, so a FaceTime with Miss Giannetti. What do you recall that's different? Justin, what's different is that Miss Giannetti had told me that she had asked Miss Slate if she wanted to file a report, if she wanted her to do something with it. That was not something that Alex had said anything about, to which Miss Slate said no. Miss Giannetti had also said on that call that when Miss Slate had said that I had commented on her wardrobe and used the word sexy, that Miss Giannetti asked if she felt it was sexual or if I was hitting on her. And she said, no, it wasn't sexual. She just didn't appreciate it. That's my recollection. Oh, and I believe it was from Miss Giannetti that I heard that Miss Slate didn't appreciate the way that Jamie or Mr. Heath had offered to pay for her additional housing as he was talking about the sanctity of motherhood. I wasn't there, so I don't know, but she didn't like that, I guess. Jesus. Some people are just never happy, are they? Gottlieb, and so before when you were testifying about what Miss Sachs told you, you mentioned a comment about a wardrobe. That comment about a wardrobe included the use of the word sexy. Justin, correct. Gottlieb, and your testimony is that comment was about the wardrobe choice. And I am going to just quickly check if there's. I'm going to just quickly cover this little bit too. This is page 200, and the reason I want to cover this bit is because in Blake Lively's in one of the responses, she makes the comment that he put that Justin Baldoni, in the context of him being a man, made himself the director of this film, and in Blake Lively's words, despite knowing that Colleen Hoover wanted a female director. So they're actually talking about that here. And the question is, did Colleen Hoover ever tell you that she wanted the director of It Ends With Us to be a female? And my response when I read Blake Lively's comment around this assertion that Colleen Hoover wanted a female director, and Justin Baldoni knew that but put himself forward anyway, is, well, firstly, it's obviously he's got the rights to the film. He owns a production studio. He is a director. He's done it previously, directed, big film as well, like 5 Feet Apart, But also, I was under the impression that Colleen Hoover had always known that Justin Baldoni was going to be the director. And certainly I couldn't see anything that suggested, there's no text message or email between them that suggested that she specifically wanted a female director. So, question, did Colleen Hoover ever tell you that she wanted the director of It Ends With Us to be a female? I mean, Colleen Hoover just does not get to call those kind of shots anyway. But Justin, my recollection from the very beginning was that Colleen Hoover knew I was going to be directing this film. That was why she gave me the rights. And that is my understanding too, is she trusted him she'd seen his work and she knew that he could do something good with it. Question. So my question is, at any point in time, did Colleen Hoover ever tell you that she wanted the director of the film to be female? Justin, I don't remember a conversation like that. It may have happened, but I feel like I would remember. Is this? Yes, it's page 200. Question. Okay, do you recall ever having a conversation with anyone where they told you maybe the director of this movie should be a female? Justin, I think during the time that I was actually just discussing where there was big shifts culturally, yes, which is why we were looking for a female director for quite some time. Gottlieb, okay, but ultimately you decided you were better positioned to tell the story. Shapiro objects. Justin, I wouldn't characterize it that way at all. Gottlieb, do you recall ever saying anything to Brandon Sklenar on the film set, something to the effect of, I have to tell you something, but I don't want to get cancelled or lose my job. You can't say anything on this set anymore. Justin, I have heard that in someone else's testimony, and that is not something I said. That is also not the way I speak. Gottlieb, whose testimony did you hear that in? Justin, I believe Jenny Slate's. Okay, so Jenny Slate was talking shit. Gottlieb, did you ever come to feel like you couldn't be open or candid or unfiltered on your set? Justin, yes, but not for any reason that is inferred in that text, nor would I ever say anything to Brandon Sklenar like that. Gottlieb, so if somebody said they heard you say that, your under oath testimony would be that they are mistaken. Justin, my under oath testimony is that I don't believe I ever said anything to that effect to Brandon Sklenar. Gottlieb, did you say to Miss Slate when you made the sexy comment that you could say that because your wife was there? Shapiro. Justin, my recollection of the sexy comment was that it was all kind of said in one sentence. Gottlieb, and what was the one sentence? Justin, Miss Slate walked in. As a director, I was doing whatever I was doing, getting the set ready. I looked over to her. She was wearing, I believe, black leather pants, which were designed to, I'm sure, look sexy. And without thinking, I said something to the effect of, oh, wow, those pants look sexy on you. And my memory, if it serves me correctly, my wife was in the room nearby. I think in my head, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And I say that as a married man with my wife in the other room, because I did not want to come off in any way like it apparently did. So I was just in that moment, it was just an instance where I said something that I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. I just tried to make it not make it super awkward. and made a bad joke at the end of it. Gottlieb, what you just described to me, I probably shouldn't have said that. My wife's in the other room. Is that something you said out loud, or is that something in your head you were thinking? Justin, well, it was like an internal dialogue. Gottlieb, internal dialogue. Justin, like it just come out. It was an instance where I said something without thinking. Okay. Okay, so we're moving on. Gottlieb, I'm going to mark a document. Before I do, Mr. Baldoni, I see you have a drink in front of you. Justin, yes. Gottlieb, that's a drink called Update, right? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, are you a sponsor or a promoter of Update? What? Justin, a sponsor? Question mark. Gottlieb, yeah. Justin, what do you mean by a sponsor? Yeah, that's weird. It's a very bizarre question to ask. Okay, so moving on. Some of this is really interesting. So this is getting to be a bit longer than I planned, but I'm going to get through the Heath and Baldoni deposition. You can thank Blake Lively for the huge filings that she put in. But there is some stuff that's quite interesting to know and entertaining. So, okay. So they're now talking about the sexy comment to Blake Lively, and we've obviously seen the behind the scenes footage of the bar thing, with the big coat and everything, where he allegedly said that. And now we've got the deposition transcript where Justin is talking about it. Okay, so Gottlieb, how would you characterize your comment using the word sexy? This is in relation to Blake Lively, not Jenny Slate. Justin, in a conversation where I was speaking to Miss Lively about her wardrobe as the director, I wanted to see the onesie because all the characters were wearing onesies. She had a large jacket on, and we were having a bit of a negotiation as I was trying to gently ask her to remove it. And like many conversations with Miss Lively, there's a back and forth that can go on for quite some time. Basically, she's argumentative. And it got to the point where I believe I said to her that it looked hot, to which she replied earlier. She said she thought it was cute, and that's why she wanted to wear it. And then I had said it down the line, I had said it looked hot, and she said that's not what I was going for. And then I made a joke and I said sexy, and she goes, not that either. And then immediately I paused and I said, I'm sorry, did I just cross a boundary? And Miss Slate shared what we talked about earlier, to which I thanked them both. I apologized to Miss Lively again. And I was in the middle of, getting everything ready. I think at one point I let Miss Lively know that she had something in her teeth before filming because we were getting ready to go shoot. And then I come back later, 5 minutes later, before we started filming, and I thanked Miss Slate for what she said. And I said something along the lines of, that can't be easy. I wish you didn't need to say what you said. I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And I apologized again to Miss Lively for using the word sexy as it related specifically to her character's wardrobe. Gottlieb, were the cameras recording when that exchange happened? Justin, the cameras for the movie? Gottlieb, any cameras? Justin, I believe there were some behind the scenes cameras filming, yes. Gottlieb, have you watched the video from that exchange? Justin, I have. Gottlieb, have you produced the video from that exchange, in this case to Miss Lively? Yes. Justin, I believe every single piece of video as it relates to the movie was produced from my attorneys. When did you last watch that scene, that recording? Justin, January, maybe? Gottlieb, you didn't mention anything about missing the HR meeting. Did you say anything about missing the HR meeting? Justin, yes, I did. in response to Jenny Slate's kind of, as I mentioned earlier, joke, as she was saying, we don't say that anymore, I immediately responded and said, I guess I missed the sexual harassment meeting. Gottlieb, did you miss the sexual harassment meeting? Why do they take satire so seriously? Justin, that's why I made the joke, because I did not miss the sexual harassment meeting. Gottlieb, all right, let's look at a document. Okay. There's a 232. Okay. I think I'm going to pause a minute. No, I'm not. I'll just check quickly one more time. So, of course, there is a bit more, actually. This is interesting. So we've jumped quite ahead, and they're now talking about the January 4th meeting in the penthouse. Gottlieb, do you know? So he's shown an exhibit at this point. Do you know one way or another, as you sit here today, whether this is the list that Miss Lively read from her phone during that meeting on January 4th? And he's obviously referring to the 30-point list, where everything began with no more. Justin, this was not the list that Miss Lively read from her phone. So, Blake Lively has said, oh, I read this list from my phone. Justin's being asked about it. He has said, that's not the list. Question, how do you know that this is not the list that Miss Lively read from her phone in that meeting on January 4th? Justin, for one, she never used the wording no more. So that's how I know, first off. Gottlieb, okay, and you know that based on your specific recollection of how she spoke to you during the meeting? Justin, I know that because I was present and in shock of what I was hearing and paid very close attention to the words, and no more was never used. It also says an updated list, so I'm not sure when it was updated. Gottlieb, okay, well, apart from your identification of no more, do you have any other reason to believe that this list is not what Miss Lively read from her meeting on January 4th? Shapiro objects. Justin, I think that's a big one. I mean, the fact that she never said no more shows it's not the same list. Gottlieb, I'm asking if there's any other reason. Justin, yes, there are. I would say there are quite a few things in here that were not read or discussed that day. Gottlieb, do you recall Miss Lively saying during the meeting that this was the worst experience of her life? Justin, I do. And yet she told Megan Toohey that she's experienced far worse. Gottlieb, do you recall her saying during the meeting that others had witnessed this behavior? Shapiro objects. Justin, I don't remember those exact words, no. Gottlieb, do you recall the words creepy or abuse being used in reference to your behavior? Justin, I definitely don't remember the word abuse. I think I remember the word creepy. Gottlieb, do you recall feeling embarrassed while Miss Lively was reading out these items? Justin, I think that would be accurate for one of the things I was feeling, yeah. Where are we now? So we've jumped ahead a few pages now, but they are still talking about the meeting. Okay. Gottlieb, do you see here the word creepy and abuse were used in reference to me and my behavior? Justin, I do see that, yes. Okay, so he's kind of impeaching him here a little bit, because obviously a minute ago Justin testified and said that a word abused wasn't used, but now he's saying, well, hold on, here's a text message where you say the word creepy and abused were used in reference to my behavior. Question. And you see a little bit later you say that you were, and then reads, unable to respond. Mr. Heath did a beautiful job apologizing. You were embarrassed that you were unable to formulate the correct words to apologize and honestly feel like a bad person. Do you see that? Justin, I would beat myself up a lot, clearly. Gottlieb, you said, it's hard to feel so much of what they believe about me is false because they are so convinced that it's real. Do you see that? Justin, I do. Gottlieb, did it occur to you that they might be right? Justin, yes. Oh. No, that's not yes, sorry. We're jumping ahead again. Ugh. Right, okay. Okay. They're now talking about Blake Lively's reputation. Okay. Gottlieb, so would you have disagreed in December of 2022 if somebody had said to you, Miss Lively has got a terrible, well-known reputation in the industry, nobody likes her? Shapiro, objection. Justin, nobody told me that. Gottlieb, if Katie Case or Brianna Koslow had told you that in December of 2022, would you have found that very surprising? Shapiro objects. Justin, I don't think I can speculate on that. Gottlieb, okay, on the previous page, 18853, at 11:01 a.m., you say of Miss Lively, she had the nuclear bomb. If she doesn't promote the movie, she can leak that I'm a bad person or that she felt unsafe with me and all the stuff she has on me. Then she's the victim. It's the Taylor Swift playbook. So she can ask for whatever she wants because she knows I know. Do you see that? Justin, I do. Gottlieb, did you mean that? Shapiro objects. Justin, what part of it? Gottlieb, all of it. Justin, I don't know. Gottlieb, you had agreed to the conditions that Miss Lively asked for to return to set, right? Justin, yes. Gottlieb, and upon the return to production, so far as production on the set went, things went pretty well, right? Justin, according to your own complaint, everything went great. Sorry, I keep having to check the page I'm on because it jumps. Okay. Okay. I think I'm gonna kind of leave that one there now. I'm gonna go and do other people's deposition transcripts in a follow-up part 2.